They called her a total waste. In the Silvercrest pack, where strength determined your worth and weakness meant you were nothing, those 3 words followed Elara Moonwhisper like a shadow she could never outrun. For 20 years, 20 long, agonizing years, she had done the same ridiculous thing every single morning without fail. While the other wolves trained in combat, while they shifted and ran through the forest with power and grace, Elara Moonwhisper sat by the river's edge and talked to the moon's reflection in the water. Before we begin this incredible journey, if you love stories of underdogs rising against all odds, forbidden romance that defies every rule, then you're in exactly the right place. Hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll be commenting about the most exciting moment you had. Now, let's continue. Elara Moonwhisper sat by the river's edge and talked to the moon's reflection in the water. Yes, you heard that right. She talked to the moon. In broad daylight. When the moon wasn't even visible. The pack members would pass by and shake their heads. Children would point and laugh. Even the elders, who were supposed to be wise and compassionate, would whisper that perhaps it would have been better if Elara had never been born at all. But Elara didn't stop. Every morning, for 20 years, she would sit by that river and whisper her hopes, her dreams, her prayers to a moon that nobody else could see. Why do you waste your time? Her own mother had asked her once, disgust dripping from every word. You can't shift. You can barely lift a training sword. You have no wolf. What makes you think the moon goddess even hears you? Elara had simply smiled that sad, distant smile of hers and said, because she promised she would never abandon me. Her mother had walked away. They all did, eventually. You see, in the Silvercrest pack, hierarchy was everything. At the top were the alphas, powerful, commanding, absolute. Below them were the betas, the warriors, the hunters. Further down were the gammas, the workers, the pack members who kept everything running. And at the very bottom, in a category so low it barely had a name, were the omegas. But even among omegas, Elara was the lowest. Because while other omegas could at least shift into their wolf forms, while they at least had something to contribute, Elara had nothing. No wolf. No strength. No purpose. Just her ridiculous daily ritual and a heart that refused to give up hoping. The pack gave her the worst jobs. Cleaning the waste pits. Scrubbing the blood from the training grounds. Carrying water from the river in buckets so heavy they left bruises on her shoulders. And through it all, the mockery never stopped. Look, it's the moon talker, they'd sneer. Still waiting for your imaginary wolf to appear? 20 years, and she's still useless. The pack would be better off without her. But what nobody knew, what nobody could have possibly known, was that Elara Moonwhisper was carrying a secret that would shake the very foundations of the Silvercrest pack. A secret that was about to explode into the open in the most spectacular way possible. Kael Shadowfang didn't believe in fate. As the firstborn son of Alpha Theron Shadowfang, Kael had been raised on logic, strategy, and the iron laws that governed pack life. At 23, he was already legendary among the wolves. The youngest beta commander in Silvercrest history. A fighter who had never lost a challenge. A wolf so powerful that when he shifted, his midnight black fur seemed to absorb the very light around him. Everyone knew Kael would be alpha one day. Everyone also knew he would choose a mate from among the strongest females in the pack. Probably Seraphina Bloodmoon, the beautiful and deadly daughter of the Beta family, who had been pursuing him since they were teenagers. What nobody expected, least of all Kael himself, was what happened on the night of the Harvest Moon Festival. The festival was the pack's most important celebration. Under the full moon's light, wolves would run together, hunt together, celebrate their bonds and their strength. It was also the night when many wolves found their fated mates, drawn together by the mysterious pull of the mate bond. Kael had attended dozens of these festivals. He'd never felt even a flicker of the bond. He'd begun to think he was one of those rare wolves who simply didn't have a fated mate. Until he caught the scent. It hit him like a physical blow: lavender and moonlight, wild honey and midnight rain. The scent wound around his senses, clouding his thoughts, pulling him forward with a force he couldn't resist. His wolf, usually calm and controlled, surged forward in his mind with one word thundering through his consciousness: mate. Kael followed the scent through the celebrating crowd, his heart pounding. Who was she? Seraphina. No, he'd been near her 1,000 times. One of the warrior females? A visiting wolf from another pack? The scent led him away from the celebration, down toward the river. And there, sitting on the bank in a dress too worn and too large for her thin frame, talking softly to the moon's reflection in the water, was Elara Moonwhisper. Kael stopped dead. His wolf howled in joy. His mind reeled in horror. No. No, this couldn't be happening. Not her. Not the moon talker. Not the weakest, most useless wolf in the entire pack. But the bond didn't lie. Even as every rational thought in his head screamed at him to walk away, his body moved forward of its own accord. Elara turned, and when her eyes met his, those strange silver eyes that everyone said proved she was cursed, Kael felt his world tilt on its axis. You, he breathed. It's you. Elara's face went pale. No, she whispered, and there was such fear in her voice that it cut through Kael's shock. No, please. Reject me now. Reject me quickly. It's better this way. What? Why would I? Because they'll kill me, Elara said simply. When your father finds out, when the pack finds out, they'll kill me. An Omega can't be mated to an Alpha's son. It's forbidden. Her voice broke. Please. Just reject me now, while we're alone. Tell me you reject me as your mate. It's the kindest thing you could do. Kael stood frozen. Everything she said was true. Pack law was absolute. An Alpha's son could only mate with a wolf of high rank, a Beta's daughter at minimum, ideally an Alpha's daughter from another pack to strengthen alliances. Mating with an Omega was forbidden. Mating with Elara, who couldn't even shift, would be seen as a disgrace, an insult to everything the Shadowfang line represented. His father would never allow it. The pack would never accept it. Seraphina's family would see it as a deadly insult. Kael would be forced to choose between his mate and everything he'd ever known. The rational choice was obvious. Reject her. Walk away. Find another mate, or live without one. That was what any smart wolf would do. But as Kael looked into Elara's silver eyes, as he felt the bond humming between them like a living thing, he heard himself say, "No." Elara blinked. "What?" "I said no." Kael's voice was stronger now. "I won't reject you. But I don't know what this means yet," Kael said. "I don't know how we'll make this work. But I won't reject you. Not tonight. Give me time to think." And before Elara could respond, before he could change his mind, Kael turned and walked back toward the festival, leaving her sitting by the river with tears streaming down her face. Kael didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Or the next. He tried to stay away from Elara. He tried to convince himself that the bond was a mistake, a trick of the moon goddess, something that could be ignored. But every moment apart from her was agony. His wolf howled in his mind constantly. The scent of lavender and moonlight haunted him. And worst of all, he found himself thinking about her constantly. He started watching her from a distance. Watching as she carried buckets of water up the hill, her thin arms trembling. Watching as the other pack members shoved her aside or knocked her down. Watching as she cleaned and scraped and worked until her hands bled. And every morning, watching as she sat by the river and talked to the moon. One morning, 3 weeks after the festival, Kael couldn't stand it anymore. He approached the river just as dawn was breaking. Elara was already there, her eyes closed, her lips moving silently. "Why do you do it?" he asked. Elara's eyes snapped open. She scrambled to her feet, nearly falling in her haste to bow. "Alpha's son, Kael," he said. "Just Kael. And you don't have to bow. Just tell me why you talk to the moon." For a long moment, Elara said nothing. Then very quietly she said, "Because she talks back." Kael waited. "Everyone thinks I'm crazy," Elara continued. "Everyone thinks I'm making it up, that I'm delusional or attention-seeking. But the moon goddess speaks to me, Kael. She has since I was 5 years old. She's the only one who's never called me worthless. She's the only one who's never given up on me." "What does she say?" Elara looked at him with those haunting silver eyes. "She tells me to be patient. She tells me my time is coming. She tells me that I'm not as powerless as everyone thinks." A sad smile crossed her face. "But 20 years is a long time to be patient. And your wolf?" Kael asked carefully. "Why can't you shift?" "I don't know," Elara whispered. "I feel her sometimes, like a presence in the back of my mind. But she won't come forward. She won't emerge. It's like she's waiting for something. Or maybe she's just as weak as I am." Without thinking, Kael reached out and took her hand. The mate bond flared at the contact, warm and bright. Elara gasped. "You're not weak," Kael said firmly. "I don't know what you are, but you're not weak." It was a small moment. A simple touch, a few words of kindness. But for Elara, who had known nothing but cruelty her entire life, it was everything. From that morning on, they began meeting in secret. Before dawn by the river they would talk. Kael learned about Elara's life. The abuse, the loneliness, the quiet strength it took to survive every day. Elara learned about Kael's burden, the pressure of being the Alpha's heir, the weight of everyone's expectations, the loneliness of never being able to show weakness. They were from completely different worlds. By all rights, they should have had nothing in common. But the mate bond didn't care about logic. And despite everything, despite all the reasons it could never work, Kael found himself falling in love with the strange, sad, impossible girl who talked to the moon. They were discovered on a cold autumn morning exactly 2 months after the Harvest Moon Festival. Seraphina Blood Moon had grown suspicious. Kael was avoiding her, making excuses, disappearing at odd hours. So she'd started following him. And when she saw him meeting with Elara by the river, when she saw him touch Elara's face with a tenderness he'd never shown anyone, Seraphina's jealousy transformed into rage. She went straight to Alpha Theron. Within an hour, Kael was dragged before the Pack Council. Elara was thrown into the holding cells beneath the pack house. And Alpha Theron's fury shook the very walls. "What were you thinking?" Theron roared at his son. "She's an Omega. A wolfless, useless Omega. And you've been sneaking around with her like... "She's my mate," Kael said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "No," Theron said, and his voice was now deadly calm. "No, she is not. You will reject her. Today. In front of the entire pack. And then she will be exiled." "I won't." "You will." Theron's control snapped. I am your alpha and your father, and you will obey me. This thing you think you feel is not real. It's a trick, a mistake. The moon goddess would never pair my son with trash. She's not trash. She's worse than trash. She's a drain on pack resources, a weak link that makes us all vulnerable. I should have exiled her years ago, but I was too soft. Well, no more. You will reject her, or I will kill her myself. Those are your only options. Kael's wolf snarled in his mind. If you touch her, you'll what? Theron stepped closer. Challenge me? Fight your own father? Tear this pack apart over a girl who can't even shift? In that moment, Kael realized something terrible. His father was right. If Kael defied the alpha directly, it would fracture the pack. Other wolves would take sides. There would be challenges, fights, possibly a civil war. And Elara would be in the center of it all, vulnerable and defenseless. The only way to protect her was to seem to give in. Fine, Kael said, and something died in his voice. I'll do it. I'll reject her. The pack gathered in the central square at sunset. Elara was brought out from the cells, bruised and bloody. Someone had clearly beaten her while she was locked up. When her eyes met Kael's, the betrayal and pain in them nearly broke him. Alpha Theron stood beside his son, satisfaction radiating from him. Speak the words, he commanded. Kael's mouth felt full of ash. The rejection ritual was simple but binding. Once spoken, the mate bond would sever. Elara would be free of him, and he would be free of her. They could both move on, find other mates or live alone. It was the sensible thing to do. It was what everyone expected. It was what would keep Elara safe from his father's wrath. Kael opened his mouth. Kael Shadowfang. And that's when Elara did something nobody expected. She laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was broken, bitter, and somehow beautiful. Go ahead, she said. Finish it. Reject me. Add your voice to everyone else who's ever told me I'm worthless. The moon goddess promised me things would change, but I guess she was wrong. I guess I really am just enough. The voice didn't come from Kael. It didn't come from anyone in the pack. It came from Elara herself, but it wasn't her voice. It was deeper, ancient, resonating with a power that made every wolf in the square take a step back. Elara's eyes had begun to glow with silver light. 20 years, the voice said, speaking through Elara's mouth. 20 years I have waited. 20 years I have slept, gathering strength, waiting for the right moment. And you would have me wait longer? You would have my vessel believe she is worthless. What is this? Alpha Theron's voice shook. Elara's body began to change. But it wasn't a normal shift. Normal shifts were quick, simple, a wolf replacing a human form. This was different. This was light and power and something that made the air itself crackle with energy. When the light faded, standing where Elara had been was a wolf unlike any the Silvercrest pack had ever seen. She was massive, larger than even Alpha Theron in his wolf form. Her fur was pure silver, gleaming like moonlight made solid. Her eyes were twin stars. And when she threw back her head and howled, every wolf in the pack felt their knees buckle. They knelt. All of them. Even Alpha Theron, fighting against the compulsion with all his strength, fell to his knees before the silver wolf. Only Kael remained standing, protected by the mate bond. The silver wolf turned her gaze on him, and he heard Elara's voice in his mind. I'm sorry. She wanted to wait longer, but I couldn't let you reject me. I couldn't let you. Who are you? Alpha Theron gasped from his knees. The wolf shifted back to human form. But the Elara who stood there now was different. She stood straight and tall. Her silver eyes blazed with confidence. And when she spoke, command rang in every word. I am Elara Moonwhisper, vessel of Luna, the first wolf, daughter of the moon goddess herself. For 20 years, I have lived among you in weakness, learning humility, learning compassion, learning what it means to survive when everyone has abandoned you. My wolf slept because she was not yet ready. I was not yet ready. But now, the moon goddess has decided my trial is complete. Impossible, someone whispered. The first wolf is a myth, another said. Myths, Elara said softly, are often just truths that people have forgotten. She turned to face the entire pack. For 20 years, you called me worthless. You mocked me. You abused me. You told me I would be better off dead. And I learned from all of it. I learned that strength without compassion is cruelty. That power without mercy is tyranny. That those who are strong have a duty to protect the weak, not crush them. Her gaze fell on Alpha Theron, and he flinched. You have failed your pack, Alpha. You have let strength become everything, until you forgot what truly makes a pack strong. Not power. Not dominance. But loyalty. Compassion. The willingness to protect even the weakest among you. The laws. Theron began. Your laws, Elara interrupted, are about to change. What happened next would be talked about in the Silver Crest pack for generations. Elara Moonwhisper, the Omega who couldn't shift, the waste everyone had mocked for 20 years, issued a formal challenge to Alpha Theron Shadowfang. The pack erupted in chaos. Challenges were sacred, yes, but they were meant for high-ranking wolves. An Omega challenging an Alpha was unheard of. It was insane. But the laws were clear. Any wolf could challenge for Alpha if they believed the current Alpha was failing the pack. And once a challenge was issued, it couldn't be refused. Theron's eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction. You've just signed your death warrant, girl. First wolf or not, I've been Alpha for 30 years. I've killed challengers who were far stronger than you. Perhaps, Elara said calmly. But you've never fought me. The challenge was set for the next full moon, 3 days away. By pack law, it would be to the death or submission. If Elara won, she would become Alpha. If Theron won, well, everyone knew what would happen to Elara. Kael tried to talk to her that night, but she avoided him. She spent those 3 days alone, training in secret, preparing for a fight that everyone was sure she would lose. The pack made their opinions clear. Bets were placed. Not a single wolf bet on Elara surviving more than 5 minutes. Only Kael believed in her. And even he was terrified. The night before the challenge, he finally cornered her by the river. You don't have to do this, he said urgently. We can run. We can leave the pack. Find somewhere else to live. We don't have to. Yes, we do, Elara said softly. She took his hands. Kael, I love you. From that first night when you refused to reject me, even though you should have, I've loved you. But this isn't just about us anymore. It's about every Omega in this pack. Every weak wolf. Every low-ranking member who's been crushed under your father's idea of strength. If I don't stand up to him, if I don't show them that strength comes in many forms, then nothing will ever change. You could die. I could, Elara agreed. But I could also win. And wouldn't that be something? She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and Kael tasted salt on her lips and didn't know if it was from her tears or his. The full moon rose over the challenge circle, bathing everything in silver light. The entire Silver Crest pack had gathered, along with representatives from neighboring packs who'd heard about the unprecedented challenge. Elara stood on one side of the circle in simple clothes, her silver hair loose around her shoulders. Theron stood opposite her, already shifted into his massive dark brown wolf form, teeth bared in a snarl. The pack elder stepped forward. This challenge is issued and accepted. It will be fought to death or submission. The winner will be Alpha of the Silver Crest pack. Do both challengers understand? I understand, Elara said. Theron's growl was answer enough. Then, begin. Theron launched himself at Elara with a speed that belied his size. The crowd gasped. This would be over in seconds. The foolish Omega girl would be torn apart before she even shifted. But Elara didn't move to dodge. She didn't shift. She simply raised one hand, palm out, and spoke a single word, Luna. Silver light exploded from her palm. Theron was thrown backward, yelping in surprise and pain. He hit the ground hard and scrambled to his feet, confusion and rage warring in his eyes. Did you think, Elara said softly, that being the vessel of the first wolf meant only that I could shift? No, Alpha. It means so much more than that. She shifted then, but not into the massive silver wolf from before. This time, she became something in between, part human, part wolf, standing on two legs with silver fur and claws that gleamed like starlight. A form most wolves couldn't hold for more than a few seconds, but she made it look effortless. The battle that followed was like nothing the pack had ever seen. Theron was strong, experienced, a veteran of 100 fights. But Elara was something else entirely. She moved like moonlight, untouchable and ethereal. Where Theron's claws slashed, she wasn't there. Where he lunged, she danced aside. And all the while, that silver light pulsed from her, growing brighter with each passing moment. You relied on physical strength alone, Elara said as she fought. You forgot that wolves are creatures of spirit as much as flesh. You forgot that the moon goddess gives power to those who honor her. You forgot so many things in your pursuit of dominance. Theron was tiring. His attacks grew sloppy. And then Elara did something that shocked everyone. She stopped fighting. She stood in the center of the circle and spread her arms wide. I could kill you, she said clearly. But I won't. Because that's not what a true alpha does. A true alpha has mercy. A true alpha knows when to stop. Weak, Theron snarled, gathering himself for one final desperate attack. You're still weak. He leaped. His jaws opened, aiming for Elara's throat. And in that moment, every wolf watching knew she was about to die. Her mercy had been her downfall. But Kael, standing at the edge of the circle, saw something no one else did. He saw Elara's eyes flicker to him. He saw her lips curve in a small, sad smile. And he understood. This was her plan all along. As Theron's teeth closed toward her throat, Elara shifted fully into her silver wolf form and howled. The sound was deafening, earth-shaking. And it was a call to every wolf in the pack, a call that resonated in their very souls. The mate bond between Elara and Kael blazed like a star. And through that bond, Kael felt her intention. She wasn't just fighting Theron. She was showing the pack what mattered. She was proving that mercy, that compassion, that love were not weaknesses. They were the greatest strengths of all. The silver light poured from Elara, washing over the entire pack. And in that light, every wolf felt something change inside them. The cruelty, the casual violence, the hierarchy that crushed those at the bottom. All of it was laid bare. All of it was shown for what it really was. A failure. A weakness disguised as strength. Theron, caught in mid-leap, felt it too. And for the first time in 30 years, he understood what he'd become. What he'd done to his pack. What he'd done to wolves like Elara, who'd had no way to fight back. He landed in front of her and stopped. For a long moment, Alpha and Challenger stared at each other. Then, slowly, Theron's wolf form lowered its head and exposed its throat. Submission. The pack erupted in shock and confusion. An alpha had submitted. It was unheard of. It was impossible. But it had happened. Elara shifted back to human form. She walked to Theron, who had also shifted back, and helped him to his feet. "You were not a bad alpha," she said quietly. "But you forgot what it meant to lead with your heart as well as your strength. Will you stand with me now? Will you help me rebuild this pack into what it should be?" Theron stared at her with tears in his eyes. "I don't deserve. None of us deserve mercy," Elara said. "But we give it anyway. That's what makes us pack." Elara Moonwhisper became alpha of the Silvercrest pack that night. The first law she changed was the one that had nearly destroyed her and Kael. Omegas, she decreed, were not lesser wolves. They were different, yes, but difference was not weakness. Every wolf had value. Every wolf deserved respect. And any wolf could mate with any other wolf, regardless of rank, if they were true mates. Love, she said, was not something that could or should be forbidden. The pack struggled with the changes at first. Old habits die hard. But gradually, as they saw how Elara led, with compassion and strength together, they began to understand. The weak were protected instead of crushed. The strong learned to use their power to help rather than dominate. And slowly, the Silvercrest pack became something it had never been before. A true family. Kael and Elara were mated in a ceremony under the full moon, 3 months after the challenge. Theron himself performed the ceremony, tears streaming down his face as he joined their hands and blessed their union. Seraphina, who had learned her own lessons about jealousy and acceptance, stood in the place of honor as Elara's chosen sister. "I never thought I'd see this day," Elara whispered to Kael as they stood together under the moon's light. "You made it happen," Kael replied, pulling her close. "You changed everything." "We changed everything," Elara corrected. "You refused to reject me, even when it would have been easier. You believed in me when no one else did. You saw me, Kael. Really saw me. That's what gave me the strength to fight." Their kiss sealed the bond completely. And every wolf in the pack felt the rightness of it, the way the moon goddess's blessing seemed to shine down on them both. But the story doesn't end there. Being alpha was harder than Elara had imagined. There were wolves who resented the changes. Wolves who thought she was too soft, too weak, despite everything she'd proven. There were challenges from neighboring packs who saw the Silvercrest pack's transformation as vulnerability. And there were moments when Elara lay awake at night, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. During one particularly difficult week, when 3 wolves had challenged her authority and 2 border skirmishes had erupted with a rival pack, Elara disappeared. Kael found her by the river, in her old spot, at dawn. She was crying silently, her shoulders shaking. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered when he sat beside her. "They're right. I'm not strong enough. I'm not." "Stop," Kael said gently. He took her face in his hands. "Do you remember what you told me the night before you challenged my father? You said strength comes in many forms. You've spent your whole life being strong, Elara. You survived 20 years of abuse and mockery, and you never gave up. You fought an alpha and won. You're rebuilding an entire pack from the ground up. If that's not strength, I don't know what is." But what if I fail? Elara asked. What if I'm leading them wrong? What if? Then we'll figure it out together, Kael said firmly. You're not alone anymore, remember? You have me. You have the pack, the real pack, the wolves who believe in what you're building. You have the moon goddess guiding you. And you have yourself. The girl who talked to the moon for 20 years because she refused to stop believing. That girl is stronger than any wolf I've ever known. Elara leaned into him, drawing strength from his presence, from the mate bond that connected them. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Kael replied. Now come on. We have a pack to lead. Together, they stood and walked back toward the pack house. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. And for the first time in days, Elara felt hope kindling in her chest again. Years passed. The Silver Crest pack flourished under Elara's leadership. The changes she'd implemented became the new normal. Omegas were trained in special skills that used their unique abilities. Warriors learned compassion alongside combat. The pack's borders were secure, not through constant aggression, but through alliances built on mutual respect. Other packs heard about Silver Crest's transformation. Some mocked it. Others were curious. And slowly, very slowly, the ideas began to spread. Maybe strength alone wasn't enough. Maybe there was another way to be a pack. Elara and Kael had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. And every morning, Elara took them down to the river and taught them to listen to the moon's voice, even when others couldn't hear it. She taught them that being different wasn't a weakness. She taught them that mercy and strength could coexist. She taught them that love was worth fighting for, no matter how forbidden others might say it was. Theron, in his final years, often sat with Elara and talked about leadership, about mistakes, about growth. You gave me a gift, he told her one evening as they watched the sunset together. You showed me it wasn't too late to change. You gave me a chance to be better. You gave yourself that chance, Elara replied. I just opened the door. You were the one who walked through it. When Theron died, peacefully in his sleep, the entire pack mourned. And Elara stood at his funeral and spoke of redemption, of growth, of how even the strongest wolves could learn and change. It was a fitting tribute to a complicated legacy. 20 years after Elara became Alpha, a young Omega girl came to her with tears in her eyes. They say I'm useless, the girl whispered. They say I can't shift properly. My wolf is weak, and I can't keep up with the others. They say I'm a waste. Elara felt her heart clench. She knelt down to the girl's level and gently wiped away her tears. What's your name? Mira, the girl said. My name is Mira Starweaver. Well, Mira Starweaver, let me tell you a story, Elara said. She led the girl down to the river, to the spot where she'd spent so many mornings of her own youth. Once upon a time, there was a girl that everyone called a waste. She couldn't shift. She had no apparent strength. And for 20 years, every single day, she sat by this river and talked to the moon. Everyone thought she was crazy. Everyone thought she was useless. What happened to her? Mira asked. She became Alpha, Elara said with a smile. Because being different doesn't mean being weak, Mira. It just means you're strong in ways that others don't understand yet. Your wolf isn't weak. She's just waiting for the right time. And while you wait, you can learn and grow, and become exactly who you're meant to be. Really? Really? Elara pulled the girl into a hug. And in the meantime, you have a pack that will protect you. You have an Alpha who understands what it's like to be different. And you have all the time you need to discover your own strength. Mira hugged her back tightly. Thank you, Alpha. As Elara watched the young girl run back to the pack house, hope shining in her eyes where tears had been moments before, Kael came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You're doing it again," he said with a smile in his voice. "Doing what?" "Changing someone's life with a few words and a lot of compassion." Elara leaned back against him. "I'm just passing on what the moon goddess taught me. What you taught me. That everyone deserves a chance. That love and mercy are not weaknesses. That the lowest among us might be the strongest, if only we give them the opportunity to bloom." "I think," Kael said slowly, "that's the most important lesson any alpha could teach." They stood together by the river as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Somewhere in the pack house, their children were laughing. Somewhere in the training grounds, Omegas and Alphas were working side by side. Somewhere in the forest, young wolves were learning that strength came in many forms. The Silver Crest pack had been transformed. And it had all started with a girl who talked to the moon, and a forbidden love that refused to die. In the end, Elara's story teaches us many things. It teaches us that the way someone appears on the outside, weak, strong, different, strange, doesn't determine their true worth. Elara spent 20 years being called worthless, but inside her was a power that would reshape an entire pack. It teaches us that love, real love, sees beyond rank and status and power. Kael could have had any mate he wanted. But he chose the one his heart called to, even when the entire world told him it was wrong. It teaches us that mercy is not weakness, but perhaps the greatest strength of all. Elara could have killed Theron. Instead, she redeemed him. And in doing so, she showed that change is always possible, that no one is beyond hope. It teaches us that the opinions of others, no matter how unanimous or how cruel, don't define our destiny. Elara could have given up 1,000 times. She could have believed what they told her about herself. But she chose to believe in something greater. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches us that our darkest moments, our times of greatest suffering, are often preparing us for our greatest triumphs. Every insult Elara endured taught her compassion. Every moment of pain taught her mercy. Every day she survived taught her strength. The waste became the alpha. The forbidden love became a legend. And the girl who talked to the moon changed the world. What appears to be a weakness might be a strength in disguise. What appears to be impossible might just be waiting for the right moment. And what appears to be the end might actually be the beginning of something beautiful. Never give up on yourself, even when the entire world has given up on you. Your time is coming. Your wolf is waiting. And your story is far from over. And that's the story of Elara Moonwhisper, the Omega who became Alpha, and the forbidden love that changed everything. Now I want to hear from you. What part of this story resonated with you the most? Was it when Elara first revealed her silver wolf? When Kael refused to reject her? When she showed mercy to Theron? Or was it something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing which moments touched your hearts. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in underdogs and impossible love and the power of mercy, then smash that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story like this one. Remember, you are not defined by what others say about you. You are defined by who you choose to become. And your story, like Elara's, is still being written. Until next time, keep believing in the impossible. Keep fighting for what matters. And keep talking to your moon, whatever that means for you. Thank you for watching. Now go out there and be the alpha of your own story.